Hello, everyone. This is Ben Tonin from Metric Insights, and I have with me the lead of our sales engineering team, Louis Bedard.
Good day, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining the webinar. I know we spoke to a lot of you at the Tableau conference, so this Push Intelligence for Tableau webinar is really as a follow-up, just so we can give you more detail and a closer look at the tool. And for those we didn't talk to, thank you so much for joining, and we hope we can give you some good insights. So again, I'm Ben Tonin. With me is Louis Bedard. Just so you know, lines are muted. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box, and we will save them for the end of the presentation. And also, the webinar is being recorded, just so everyone knows, and the link will be sent out afterwards, so you can access it, and I believe it will also be available on our site. And so the agenda today, again, it's following up from the Tableau conference. We're going to talk about the different challenges in BI generally in the industry that we've come across, but also as they relate specifically to Tableau. And then we will just really be getting into, what is push intelligence? How does it work with Tableau? How does it solve these problems that we've identified? And just get straight into the good stuff with the demo, which will be led by Louis. And so when we talk about these BI general problems and specific to Tableau, the primary conversation we were having at the conference was around the fact that Tableau, it's a great tool. Everyone knows that. It's amazing what you can do with it, but it's really primarily geared toward being an analyst, right? It's a great tool for analysts. They can slice, they can dice, they can do whatever they want typically, but when we talk about typical business end users, it's not as practical. It's very difficult for users to gain the insights from these dashboards and reports that have been published in a meaningful way and on the go. A lot of times people just don't have the time. They get confused as to where they should go. They get confused of the general meaning of things. So really it boils down to three things past that. The first is siloed systems. Most organizations that we deal with and that have Tableau, very large, complex data environments, a lot of different tools, Tableau obviously typically being the primary, a lot of data, just each department kind of has its own flavor. A lot of times it's blocked off. It gets very cumbersome to find the right data. And so really what it comes down to is playing a game of hide and seek with your users, especially as we're talking about typical business end users. And so the right data is out there. It's somewhere out there. It's just very difficult for them day in, day out to go and find this data in the right place, in the right format, and so forth. And let's say they do find the correct Tableau dashboard or report, that typically there's so many data points on any given dashboard or report. There's so many different filter combinations, so many different ways to interact with that data. It's hard to find the gems within these dashboards or the critical information that's critical now. Typically, it's just information overload. And so talking about the architecture and capabilities of Metric Insights Push Intelligence platform, obviously this will be geared towards Tableau, but we want to make it clear that it is not a rip and replace platform. It truly is, it's a system agnostic platform meant to help you leverage the tools and data sources that you've already purchased and just make sure that people are getting the most out of it. We want to up the user engagement across all your tools, especially Tableau. Right now, I think, regardless of what organization you are, how big you are, what tool we're even talking about, I believe Gartner has the industry average of user engagement with BI right around 22%. And it's just very demoralizing when you paid so much money and you put so much effort into generating these dashboards and reports and nobody's using it, right? Or somebody uses it once and then forgets about it. It makes all these requests to the BI and analytics team. It's very demoralizing. And so on the left, you can see Tableau is one of our primary plugins, is one of our best partners for sure. But it's system agnostic, and we can connect to really anything you have, whether it's a BI tool or whether it's an underlying relational data source or your warehouse. It doesn't matter to the Push Intelligence platform. We can connect to anything and work our magic with it. And so the three primary areas that Louis is going to be focusing on in the demo is the first being our ability to organize the content that we connect to and bring into the system. It's a means of organizing it in an intuitive way, personalized to each individual user. Just make it easy for them to find exactly what they're looking for quickly. And the second point, as you can see, is us enriching this data. A lot of the times it's not enough to simply publish these dashboards and reports, and even if it's organized in an intuitive way like we provide, a lot of times you still need to enrich this content for your users by focusing on exactly what the critical data is hiding in all these dashboards and reports. And that can be through anomalies and exceptions. We'll go into that very soon. The next point is our distribution engine. So it's nice to have everything organized, one place, easy to find. It's nice to enrich this content by uncovering the critical data for your users, but a lot of the times that's typically not going to be enough. You still need to be able to distribute this content to your users via the right channel, email, SMS, phone trade alerts, mobile app, even smartwatches, whatever makes sense, and via the right format. So does it make sense to send them a pre-filtered snapshot of a Tableau dashboard, or perhaps an anomaly that occurred in a metric within it? Whatever makes sense to your users, we provide you the ability to push it to them and drive that user engagement. And so starting with that first point, our ability to organize this content in a meaningful way for your users, Louis is going to start off with our consolidated portal. So we call it our catalog. And so what this is, it's allowing you to connect to your various data sources, or bring in various content from Tableau in the form of dashboards and reports, assign them tiles, allow users to create their own categories or create their own folders, allow them to use the filter criteria up top and find what they're looking for very quickly, and also the ability for the BI and analytics team to be able to certify various content that's within the portal so users can know and trust that the data they're looking at is the correct data.
Fantastic, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. Great intro. So I love the framework that you put together there to organize enrich and distribute our data. So first, let's start by talking about the organization. What you're looking at right now is the home page of Metric Insights, what we like to call the catalog view. So the catalog view helps you organize and catalog all your content in one single location. When you take a look at this on the left-hand side, you have several different categories. You can imagine that our system is such that a lot of permissioning and security is attached to your system, so users only have access to specific categories within the system. And then within those categories, they will have filtered views access to the data that they have permission to see. For additional organization, users can put some of these tiles into folders or even favorite content, which is what I've done here in order to prepare this demo. So on the right-hand side here, you're noticing that it's a tile-based system where each and every tile for us is an independent element. So we'll start with the link with the business intelligence dashboard. So as we can see here, we're trying to showcase the fact that a tile for us could be a link to any types of your business intelligence dashboard. May that be Tableau. Ben mentioned the fact that most most companies we talk to, the Tableau show has Tableau, but also have maybe legacy BI tools. Maybe they have Tableau, Power BI, Cognos, MicroStrategy, Business Object, and so on. So just picture a place where you can go ahead, click on any particular tile like this one, and be able to visualize your Tableau dashboard literally within the application, or having those tiles be a link that brings you directly to Tableau for further analysis. So that's one thing that is possible to do, within the organization. Quick link to your business intelligence dashboards, no matter what they are. We really support most business intelligence tools today. In addition to that, you'll notice that some of these tiles are representative of a KPI, or what we like to call a metric. So those metrics sometimes a nice and easy way to look at data from a particular perspective. Here, you have just a data point that is filtered to any location here that we have. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about our metrics today and see what type of outcome we can get from these types of tiles. And then in addition to that, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, I selected a few reports. So it could be linked to an RSS feed, could be exception report. We'll talk about our exception and change report today, and even linked to other applications that are on the web. So all in all, it's the BI portal here, or the catalog view allows you to catalog your data from whatever location they're coming from. And for easy finding and to be able to easily find the data that you're looking for, you can search your content by different types of folders, filters. Those styles can be tagged, and you can do keyword search, partial keyword search, and so on. So, so that's it here for the first part, the organization part of the application.
And so as we switch over to the next part, I just want to make it clear to everyone, the whole point here is making it as simple as possible for the business end user and upping that engagement. What's the best way we can get them to increase engagement? And so the portal view that Louis just showed you, our catalog, our organization, a key distinction is that you can either allow business users to come into their own portal experience, switch stuff around, look for stuff, whatever you like, but another means might be a central admin setting this up for users across the organization. So it's completely up to you. But moving on to the next pillar of the demo and of the platform, our ability to enrich this content. And so there's, Louis touched on it briefly, but there we have a bunch of different ways we can enrich the content that users are looking at and engaging with and being sent. And the first is our metric anomaly. So we have the ability to either automatically detect anomalies occurring in metrics that reside within Tableau dashboards or reports or whatever content it might be, or we give you the ability to set up your own custom event-based alerting on any metric as well. The next means of enrichment is our exception reports. So I'll give the example of you have a very complex Tableau dashboard. It's a large data set that sits behind it. A lot of the times, if somebody's looking through all these various filter combinations to look for a specific event or just significant changes, whatever it might be, it's not practical to think that a business end user is going to be able to go into all these dashboards, work the filter combinations, and look for those nuggets of key business insights. So what we allow you to do is take whatever data set you like. It could be behind a Tableau dashboard, wherever it might be residing. We allow you to set rule criteria on top of these data sets, to pick out exactly what you're looking for. And so we have the ability to filter it down to surface only the critical data that you're looking for, and even pre-filter the various views of the dashboard to only show the associated items. And the next is what we call change reports. So exception reports is great, but maybe I want to see how a particular metric within a dashboard or report has been changing over time. So visualization tools like Tableau especially, they are amazing at showing what the surface value of a particular filter combination or metric might be today. You go in, you drill down, you see what the value is today. But if you want to see on an enterprise scale how all of these metrics are changing over time, it's very difficult. It can be done, but it requires a huge amount of manpower. It's just not practical. So we allow you the ability by snapshotting data sets as they update to see how these metrics are changing over time, and you can then again input your own criteria to look for specific changes and filter out all the noise surrounding it. And finally is our statistical enrichment. So this really has to do with us employing our own statistical processes to see how things are not only changing or the exceptions, but also, maybe unusual events or anomalies that occur statistically throughout, any data set and any metric.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. This is a great overview. So let's talk about this. There's a lot to discuss here, as Ben just mentioned, about the enrichment of this thing. So first thing I'd like to do is go back to what I was doing at the Tableau conference and start with taking a look at a beautiful Tableau dashboard like this one. So this dashboard is based on the wine store that sells wine around the world, different channel, different product category, and so on. So this daily dashboard here that we're looking at, I find it's great for high-level overview of your business yesterday, right? When I'm looking at this dashboard or dashboards like this, what is it telling me? It's probably telling me that I'm selling more red wine than I'm selling champagne. It seems that my website visit here is seems to be my most profitable sales channel that I have. And then looking at my my top product sales here, it looks like most of my top product sales are also my most profitable product that we have here on the right-hand side. So all in all, this Tableau dashboard gives me a nice overview of this data and very easy to see what's happening from a high-level perspective. However, what this dashboard is not telling me is that taking a look at my different filters that I have here on the left-hand side, are there any combination of this country, channel, product category, and so on, where there's something that I should be paying attention to, something exceptional is happening? Are there any product categories that are underperforming compared to their average, and so on? So the point being is that that's what Ben was mentioning as well. It's hard to find the details in your data that does matter. So now let's just take a look at how we can enrich this data from a dashboard like this one. So the first thing that we can do is we can enrich the data, this dashboard, in order to create a metric. And we have a good example here. So what is this metric? A metric is a time series data. So we extracted the data coming from your Tableau dashboard. And in this case here, we created this time series data. So this time series data, when we have it in metric insights, the platform profiles those data points in order to detect anomalies. So if I switch from my standard view to my statistical view, you'll see that those two data points here, this one and this one here, are data points that we deem statistically significant because they're falling outside of the standard deviation of this moving average. Now, if I go back, I believe I have around 9 months worth of data here. You can see where the anomaly were detected. And this is done automatically with the platform across all different dimensional values that we have. So that's one thing that we do, is the ability to detect anomalies. Another thing that you can do is create alerting rules on which you can run, obviously, alerts in the platform. So, you know, the difference between Metric Insights alerting and other BI tools alerting is that it is much more than threshold-based alerting than most BI tools today. And we find out that threshold-based alerting are rarely being used because as soon as you have multiple different dimensional values, and it's hard to maintain over time. So what we find out is very few people are using, you know, threshold-based alerting in those products. However, it could be much more interesting to compare your data points against prior value or against averages of prior value, or you want to compare your Mondays to Mondays, Saturdays to Saturdays, 12 o'clock noon to 12 o'clock noon, things like that. Or it could be by volatility level band. If a data point falls between 1 to 2 standard deviation, let me know about that. But if it falls between 2 to 3 standard deviation, not only let me know, but let also Ben know about this, because, you know, he could go ahead and work with his team to fix the problem, and so on. And then you can go ahead and bring in target, combining multiple different alerting rules together. That really allows you to create complex alerting scenarios. For the sake of this example here, I'll just select one easy here, the averages of prior value, just to show you how our rules are working. So in this example, based on that data set that I had there, what I want to be alerted is when I check out my alerts, if my data points are falling 10% above or below the average of all days of the week for the past month. And this must happen every time it happens. And please email me or let me know. I can decide to be reminded via email digest. I can receive all my alerts in the digest. If these are so important, I can receive them immediately via email, SMS, phone alert tray. We'll talk about all this, but distribution mechanism are wide with Metric Insights. You can send them anywhere. And how do you want to receive them? Every time they're happening or the first time the condition is met? So in this case here, I would say, let's meet this. And let's receive them this way. And then you want to see if the criteria I just created there is going to create too many alerts, or just the right number of alerts for this system. So in this case, I'll say, why don't we simulate this for all my values and see how many alerts would be generated for this time here. And based on this criteria I set on top, the system is telling me that across all those different dimensional values, this alert would have been triggered 52 times. So that's probably too much. If I can adjust my criteria here, changes from 10 to 20%, see what changes here, how many alerts I would generate. Oh, and in this case, it would generate 14 times. So that seems to be right. And I can even take a look at any particular country, such as Canada, and say, okay, where is that? These alerts would have been set up for Canada, and simulate those there. And then you see where those 3 data points would have been alerted.
And this seems simple enough, just to jump in here, but it's very important to realize the power of this, because you know, being in BI and analytics, if you send out a bad alert to the business, they immediately lose trust. It's harder to develop a healthy rapport with them. So it's crucial to be able to see how many alerts would be sent out and drill down and make it what you want it to be.
It's a very good point, Ben. And in addition to that, right, it's important to mention that once this alerting rule has been completed, I'll stop here, but once this alerting rule has been completed, the alert could be tied to a workflow. So we have a lot of clients where customers that are literally sending those alerts that opens up a ticket into their ticketing system or things like that. So a workflow can be created here. So that's it for these metric and the type of, we talked about anomaly detection and different types of alerting scenarios or rules. Now we'll change gear and talk about the data set. And the second thing that we can do to enrich the data coming from the BI dashboard is to load this data in the data set like this one here. So what is this? This is a daily snapshot of the dashboard we just looked at a second ago. So every day, Metric Insights can go at this dashboard and extract those KPIs in order to produce those daily snapshots. So the first thing that I'd like to do here is like to create an exception view. Ben talked about exception reports. So why don't we go ahead and create an exception view where I'm just interested in create a very simple rule, but that would create a very powerful report. And the idea here is that, are there any combination of my country, channel, and product category where my cost are greater than my sales quantity for any particular day? So quite simply, I can take a look at this. I have about 200, 300 rows, 300 or 400 rows of data right now. What I'd like to see is I'll sum up my different criteria here. And what I would like to go ahead and do is create really this rule where I would say, show me where my sales, the sum of my total cost, is going to be greater than, you know, the sum of my total sales amount. You can select by a value, by percentage, in this case, by any amount. Anything that is greater than this, I would love to know about this. So I can apply those changes, and as you'll see here, going from 400 rows or 384 down to 30 rows. And at this point, I want to focus my attention only on areas where I'm selling actually a lot of units. So I can even increase this, you know, creating another set of rules where I say my total sales amount would be, let's say, greater than 5,000, and just have a defined set of data that I have there. And now I'm down to a small data set, a small subset of data set that I really want to pay attention to and I want to take a look at in more details. So that's fantastic. You created this. After that, I could save this particular view that I created on that data set, quite simply cross greater than sales. I will make this public. And once I have that, quite simply, you can go ahead and produce a report. So in this example, I'll go ahead and build a new report. And the view that has been created now, you know, has the data, has the exception that we want to look at, and then we are into our report editor. Now, I won't spend too much time in the formatting phase today, but just so you know, we can easily drag and drop, you know, charts, any types of charts, cross tab. We'll have the ability to change the format or do a conditional formatting on this type of table and so on. But for the sake of time here, let's save this report and just go ahead and view it. So once you have this report, it will be run, and there we go. So quite simply, we started with a large data set, extracted from a Tableau dashboard, and created an exception report where I found the areas where actually my costs are greater than my sales on this particular day. And because we have a daily snapshot, I can go back in time and see what it was on any particular other days. So that's a good example of a kind of an exception report. So that's one example. The other example that we have is to be able to create a change view. So in this particular example here, I'm back into the same data set that we're looking at. But in this particular example, I'm actually interested in finding out, are there, since I have, you know, consecutive, you know, snapshots of my data, I'd like to be able to compare one instance to the other to say, are there any combination of my country, channels, and product category where my sales are 50% or more less than the previous day. So we have the ability to track changes between two instances, which is what we'll do right now. So what I want to do is track my changes against those two instances. The field that I will select for this one will be, I'll just focus on my sum of my total sales amount. And actually, I can even create a derived field that allows me to to take a look at what is the actual percentage changes that we'll get from that. So with the fields that I have the ability to, with this UI, to quickly go ahead where I will compare my prior sum of total sales amount minus the current sum of my total sales amount, and we'll divide this with the prior sum of my total sales amount. And now I just created the right field from this. So now I'm interested in tracking the changes between those two entities. So I'll just focus on changes. And the change rule that I want to do is literally where the current sum of my total sales amount will be less than the prior sum of my total sales amount by a percentage, and we'll say about 50%. 50%. Applying these changes here. There we go. So now we're back to a very great exception report, and let's move this around. So you have the prior sum of your total sales amount, the current one, and then how much it changed. So you can literally see that this exception, this happened. A report like that, or creating a data set or view like that, it's nearly impossible to do this with BI systems, right? Because you have to query this table here first, the other table, and then perform a calculation to render this out. So I'll spare you the step of running another report, but the end result that we have from this could be a report like this one here, which is exactly this exact report. Nicely formatted here. You're noticing that you have your country, channel, product categories, the KPIs we're just working with. And as Ben mentioned before, attach with your Tableau dashboard right down below. So in other words here, if I want to see what happened in Canada, corporate sales and wine furniture, I can click on this particular filter in the report, and we're passing along the filter information to your Tableau dashboard. So see, what we did here is starting with a very generic Tableau dashboard like this one, and be able to come up with a report like this one that shows you only the exception that you should be paying attention to, and be able to tie it up to your Tableau dashboard. And you can imagine that this report can then be bursted out and can be sent out and seen via email. So yeah, so that's the many ways we can enrich our data, Ben.
Fantastic. And so closing the loop here, everything we spoke about is great. It's great to organize your content. It's great to be able to enrich it, but how are you going to make sure that your users are engaging? How are you going to get past that industry average of 22% of user engagement? And it really comes down to the fact that the poll methodology is dying out in the BI industry. It's not enough to simply publish these reports and dashboards and then tell your users to go look at them, because typically, as we know, they won't. So Metric Insights ensures users are engaging with this content through our distribution engine. And so, as I was mentioning before, there's a lot of ways we can distribute this content to your users. The first is what we call portal pages, which is kind of a twist on our main portal catalog view, just making it more personalized for users, a little more interactive. Louis will show you that. The next is email. And so when we say emailing, it seems simple enough, but there's various options with Metric Insights in the way that you can email this content. You can email, like Louis was saying, these change reports, or what we call a daily favorites digest, that will only send the content that is experiencing significant change, or only boiling down to critical data. Or if you just want to send a burst with a set group of data, no matter what the changes are or are not, that's also an option. We will show that as well. And as we described to you, the ability to send alerts. And so these alerts, again, can be sent via any channel, email. You can send your users an SMS text. Maybe they're field sales folks. Mobile app, which we'll show as well. We have a mobile app on both the iOS and Android platforms, and also collaboration tools like Slack. Slack is very prevalent nowadays, and it's crucial to give your users the ability to stay with what they're comfortable with and still distribute the data that they're looking for. So Louis will briefly go over Slack as well.
Fantastic. Great. So we covered a lot of things so far. Let's move on to the first thing that we talked about, which is our management pages, or what we like to call portal pages. So these portal pages are really high curated experience for your end users. They allow us, again, per the theme towards the entire application, to get data from multiple tools in one single view. And it can run directly inside of Metric Insights. As you'll see, you have your different portal or pages here that are available to us, or could be completely branded and working as an external pages as well outside of the application. And of course, you can imagine that the rules and permission and so on still gets applied to these type of pages. So I like to take a look at these couple of examples. Up here, we see what we call management pages, the top KPIs that are available to us here. If I want to find out what's happening in my daily profit by different countries that I have down below, click on this. I have the ability to see the details to these tiles. If I select any of these tiles, that would bring me back to those metrics we're looking at a second ago. Similar paradigm, I could select any of these tiles or KPIs, and then shows me what's happening in my data today. And that's literally my tile running live in the application, and so on. So I have the ability to see those key performance indicator. I also talked about the fact that we connect to multiple different BI tools. You can have all those management dashboard in one single location. We made this example to show you how, again, we can connect to multiple different BI tools. This tiles here, this worksheet's coming from Tableau, this dashboard from ClickSense, Power BI, Cognos, and so on. So possible to bring all of this in one single location. And as we're scrolling down here, you'll see a tile that keeps changing all the time. So we also have the ability to do some kind of a slideshow with the application. Take a look at your different KPIs. So that's one example of a management page that we have. Another one that we have as well, it's another example, just show you the fruit of things that we can do. Looking at our KPIs here, and this example is highly filtered for the data that's happening in this particular country, but I can change, my point of view from a daily, weekly to monthly type of sales, see what's happening. Take a look at my top performance product we're looking at before by sales channel. So I have your product here, different types of product sales and so on by sales channel. The exception report that we created before here, it's available, and even showing you my Tableau dashboard running live here inside of the application as well. So it's very easy to, again, to see your content highly curated into portal pages. So that's kind of one of the first thing that we do in terms of distribution. The second one that Ben talked about is the ability for us to gather all this information and send it out via email. So what we're looking at right now is what we call a digest email. So the digest email in this example here is made out of all the content that we had in my favorite folder. And the idea was to receive this on a daily basis to monitor my dashboards and KPI that have changed compared to the previous time that I looked at those KPIs. So so business users and executive loves to receive, emails like this one, because all their data is put in one single location, no matter where it's coming from. As a matter of fact, this particular email that we're looking at right now is made out of 8 different data sources, all into one single location. So here we have our top movers. You have the summary of all the other KPIs that we're currently running or looking at, and if any alerts was generated on this KPI, you would see it here. And as I'm scrolling down my email, exception reports, my new and removed product, the sales, again, exception report that we looked at before, any type of sales analysis report that we can do, attach your charts and so on. And as I'm scrolling down, you'll recognize this Tableau dashboard, comments and annotations here, Power BI dashboard, and so on. So it really doesn't matter, like I said, for your business users, to receiving this content into one single email, gathering, the data from multiple different sources. And at the bottom here, this is not by mistake. It's possible for us as an application to bring all this content and bring into one single PowerPoint or one single PDF file and so on. So there's a lot of requests that has been made to be able to put this, this content into one single PowerPoint and automate this process, and it can be automated with our platform. So that's the example that we have here for the email, and you can imagine that such email can receive alerts, digests, and so on. third part that Ben was talking about was taking a look at our alerts. So alerts, like I said, could have been sent via an email and receive this information this way. But also within the application, we do have an alerting inbox that covers and contain all the information that, the alerts that I'm actually, alerting rules that I'm subscribed to. So today I have 4 alerts that has been triggered, and some of these alerts will require my attention to be doing something. So like the first one on top, this Canada daily sales been assigned to me, and looks like action is being requested. So I can select any particular alert like this one, say, okay, this is great, but why don't I delegate it to Ben? Because Ben has a large team that have a lot of engineers that can work on that. And Ben will start working on this right away, can grow the priorities to high and so on. And if I save that, now you can imagine that in Ben's inbox, it would see this particular alert. So the point being here is not only can receive your daily alerts via an alert digest on a daily basis, but you also have a way to curate and take a look at the alerts that has been generated in the system. So far we took a look at the portal pages, the emails, the alerts. Another one that Ben was talking about is our mobile app. So for the sake of time here, we'll just take a look at this quick video here, but we have an app that sits on the iOS and the Android platform that allows you to connect to literally the application, visualize your business intelligence dashboard, your Tableau dashboard, your KPIs, and your alerts in one single location, and it looks exactly like that. So that is for the mobile app. And that then leads me to start talking about our Slack application as well. So quite nicely right now, we have an alert that has been triggered, and alerts, it's a good segue to talk about the alerts that can go in the alerting inbox via email, SMS, text, and so on. Alerts can also be sent via Slack into a Slack channel like this one here. So the alert has been triggered, we received it there, and if I want to go for further analysis, I can click on this alert and that would take me there. Working with Slack as well, it's possible to go ahead and go and type any types of content that we want to type. So if I want to see, if I know the name of my towels and like to see what are my Canada daily sales here, the system will go ahead, talk to the application, and hopefully it will bring me back the data. So now you see the Canada daily sales, that KPI we're looking at, and it's a conversation between the app and Metric Insights that renders this. If this is exactly what I was looking for, we go ahead and say, all right, I'll go ahead and publish that to my demo channel. And now you'll see it's been published to my demo channel. So at the same time, I could go ahead, and if I'm not sure what I want to ask, or if I not sure what I want to say, I can see what were my sales in Canada yesterday. And what's nice about it is that the system will then go against the application and say, okay, we'll take a look at the one that that we have here, and say, okay, these are the ones that are possibly returning the data that I want. What I want to see is actually this one here, so you can preview this particular chart, and then the chart will be previewed in the application. You can go ahead and share it back to the application here. So there we go. So that's within Slack. That's the ability to see your wine sales and so on there. So it's kind of the ability for us to ensure a conversation. And when you are within the channel as well, the paradox can be the other way around, where you can actually talk to the app. So I can say, hey, Insights, why don't you tell me what were my website visits yesterday? And it will go ahead and take a look at my different website visits. I'm interested in taking a look at what's happening in Canada. So then I'll take a look at my website visits in Canada and so on. So as you were trying to see here, it's a collaboration or a conversation between your, our, those Slack or type of application like Slack and Metric Insights to go back and forth and get the information that you want. So there we go. So that's it for that part of distribution. A lot to talk about here, Ben, but really, really cool.
Yeah, and just to recap, just so everyone understands the key pillars of the platform, It's really about these 3 points: organizing your content in a way that makes sense to each individual user, make it intuitive, make it easy to find what they're looking for quickly without the requirement of bouncing from tool to tool, system to system, looking for what they want. It's just not practical. People don't have the time, they get frustrated, and they stop engaging ultimately. And second being, enrich this content. Don't just make it easy for them to find stuff. Enrich it to ensure that they're looking at the critical data, the stuff that they should be focusing on right now to make these key business decisions. And finally, distribute this data to them when it makes sense. If they're not analysts, if they're just typical business end users, the chances are that they're not going to be going anywhere enough to find the data that they should be focusing on. You have to provide the ability to distribute this data to your users in the right format, the right channel, and on the right device to ensure that your user engagement is going to be where you want it to be, especially with Tableau. And that's really it, guys. Thank you so much for the time. If you need to contact us for any reason, feel free. It's both our emails and a little more information. We love to jump on and discuss, personal use cases, dive into the platform, show you how it would play out. And feel free to reach out to either me or Louis. And of course, we have a free trial of the software if you'd like to sign up. I believe it's 14-day free trial. You can play around with it, really do whatever you'd like just to see if it suits your needs. And again, this recording will be made available by sending a link after the conclusion, or if you'd like to go to our site, it will be available there as well. And I think we had a couple questions actually in the chat box. Louis, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. The first one that came on about is those PowerPoints again. Is it possible to get a Tableau business object and also Power BI inside of a PowerPoint in those emails that I just shown a few minutes ago? So to make that point very clear, yes, not only this process will be fully automated where each and every users would receive only the content that they have access to and that they want to see, and these different dashboard coming from wherever they're coming from will be put in the one single PowerPoint. So absolutely, great question here.
Fantastic. And another is, okay, this question is so asking if you would have to set up individual alerts for groups of hundreds of users. I think I'm understanding. We have the concept of what we call global alerts. So that's another key distinction actually between our alerting mechanism and other tools, is that we allow you, let's say you have a group of 500 sales contacts, and each one should know about a particular event that occurs within some sales volume in some particular region. So we provide you the ability to create what we call global alerts, in which you set up a single alert, and then Metric Insights syncs with your security infrastructure, your AD group, so on. And so once you create that single alert, Metric Insights is smart enough to go through all the different filter and dimensional values to see which regions are experiencing that event and see which user should be receiving the alert. So it's what we call a global alert, and it just makes it enterprise scale and very easy to use the alerting mechanism.
Two great questions, fantastic. Any other question in the chat box? I think we're good, fantastic. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Ben. Great webinar. Happy to go ahead and discuss with you in further details any of the points that you saw us demo and discuss today. So once again, thank you, everyone, and we look forward to our follow-up webinar. Thanks you.
Thank you, everyone.